there he was standing with a crossbow. I shot from the hip, and I reached up and grabbed my head, and I had blood everywhere.
30, you're unreadable. I got shot with an arrow.
All right, Blue Grit Podcast, we're back today. We've got a couple of guests on. It's Clint McNear and
Tyler Owen. What's going on, guys?
Before we get started today, hit subscribe. You can put it up top or bottom.
Here.
Just going to put it
Here
in
somewhere.
this general area.
Right there.
Hit
Here.
subscribe, follow what we're doing, give some feedback on what you got. Today we've got field rep from Southeast Texas Golden Triangle, the Leighton Guarnere, common spelling.
Let me just go ahead and throw it out there. This is probably going to be one of the very few episodes that we probably need parental, what is it?
Parental discretion.
Yeah, parental
advice.
discretion on the episodes before we get any further. Just throwing it out there. Our LSU big fan field rep.
For you guys Googling him right now, Leighton Guarnere is common spelling while you're Googling him.
Yeah.
And we've got Tom Lee on, deputy from Hardin County. He's got a cool story, a crazy story. And we'll talk a little bit about mental health officers and what they do and his role and what's going on and Tmpa's response to critical incidents and what we got. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So, how long? Well, let's just kind of, like we usually do, just dive off to where'd you grow up and how you got in law enforcement. I know you and I discussed that earlier this morning, but it's kind of an interesting deal of your previous employer.
Who is Tom?
Okay, so I started out at the University of Texas, Dallas.
Were you born there, or that's where you started your police career?
I
Where
was-
were you born?
Born in Garland. So
Oh, G-Town.
There you
I didn't
go.
know
Here
that.
we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I went to high school
Retired Garland cop here.
at Garland Christian Academy.
Okay.
So
We didn't get many
private
calls
school
there.
guy.
yeah, private school guy. So I went off to college. At college, I got in the Explorer program with the campus police department, and as I was doing that, I was like, man, law enforcement seems like a cool thing to do. So I ended up being a dispatcher for UT Dallas for a couple of years, put myself through in a police academy. Then UT Dallas had an opening and hired me as an officer, made me come back to the police academy. So here in Austin, went to the academy. Then in December 2005, I was a police officer with UT Dallas.
So University of Texas, and just for the listeners, watchers, voyeurs, and everybody that's viewing on this podcast, and I didn't know this. All the university, how many UT campuses are there across the state?
14, around
Okay,
14.
so we've got like UT Galveston, UT Austin, obviously, UT Brownsville, El Paso. If you're a cop in any of those cities, they send you back to Austin. This is essentially their headquarters.
Yes.
I did not know that.
You're under the system police department, which is here at Austin.
Okay.
And then they commission you out, and they have like mutual aid agreements between each campus. Like
Wow.
during Ike, when Ike happened in Galveston, there was several of us that went from UT Dallas down to UTMB to help them during Ike.
So UT Systems runs their own academy in Austin. Did you live down here during that, or how does that work?
Yeah, they put us up in a hotel down
Crazy.
off of 35 and 290 down there.
All right.
It's pretty cool, though. I did not know that.
I didn't either. How long did you spend it in the UT Systems Police?
I stayed there until 2009.
Okay.
And then from there, I reserved with a tiny police department, White Wright. Then one of my friends became the chief of police at Lamar University down in Beaumont. So I went to work full-time at Lamar University in 2012. And then 3 years later, I got on with the sheriff's office.
Nice.
And I've been with the sheriff's office since.
Nice.
Where's the seat for Hardin County? What seat is that?
Kuntz.
Kuntz. Okay. That's not far from, in relation to where you live at, it's not that far from.
No, within an hour.
Yeah. Cool. Did you campus policing, and as far as it relates to working at a sheriff's office, can you kind of give us an overview of not the reality difference, but just the difference in the style of police work?
So campus policing, a lot of drugs, alcohol, thefts, criminal mischief, criminal trespass, just a lot of misdemeanor stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, I went to the sheriff's office, and it was like felony.
Right.
And I was like, this is a big, huge change from what it was at the campus. I can still do, like I did tons of DWIs. I started at UT Dallas doing DWIs, and I still could do those at the county, but man, shootings and stabbings and whatnot at the county were astronomical in comparison to what it was like at the college.
Yeah. So the main reason you're on today is a pretty unique incident. When I heard about it, it wasn't a joke, but I mean, it's just a weird. I've never heard of anybody going through what you went through that day. Can you kind of give us a overview of how the call started, kind of a background of the individual, and how you got dispatched to the call and so forth?
So the guy's dad actually called me like 3 weeks earlier, and I was actually at a hostage negotiation school. Mm-hmm. So it was during one of our breaks, and I answered the phone. I was like, man, I can't come out now, but if it's an emergency, call 911.
You had a personal relationship, or was it
No,
just to build a rapport with the family? Or
I've never met them before.
Okay.
It was just I've got a company phone.
Okay.
So
you were you're already in your role as mental health officer at that time?
yeah, I started that
Okay.
in March of 2019. This
Okay.
was like early June of 2019.
So that's how they got connected to you, trying to get a hold of the mental health officer?
Yeah, and they said
Gotcha.
that their son was having an issue. And I advised them to call 911. That I couldn't respond at the time because I was in a training, and then 3 weeks later, I get a phone call from the dad saying, "Hey, my son, came last night and tried to tell us that the cell phone tower that's out back of our property was shooting off all these beams that were killing people, and the cartel was using it, and that he needed to borrow my cell phone and plug in some code to stop the cartel from killing people." And they didn't let him have the cell phone, told him to get out, to go back to his place. And he woke up that morning, and all the hay in his field had been set on fire.
Clearly somebody, mental crisis.
Yeah, so I responded out there. Me and my mental health partner that works for the local mental health authority, we went out there.
Who's a civilian, I guess?
Yeah, civilian.
Okay.
She rides with me. Went out there, started talking to the dad, and the mom was there, and the dad and the mom were divorced, but she was there too, and she was acting real strange, talking about how she was kind of scared of her son. And I was like, what's going on? And I went to call for a backup unit, and about that time, they were putting out another call over an overdose in Sour Lake. So I was like, we don't have that many people on the street. It's going to be a while before I could get a backup unit, so I'll just handle this myself.
Yeah.
It's kind of a routine thing. I'm not really doing anything, just going to go talk to them and see if I can get them some help. And the dad was like, hey, he lives just one driveway down from me. I'll meet you over there. You can follow the mom. So I thought he was going to come like behind us. Well, I get there and go put my vest on because mom's acting a little hinky. I was like, okay, because we normally don't wear vests. We kind of dress like I'm dressed right now, just trying to be cool with people.
Non-confrontational, I guess, for people in a crisis, I guess. Or
don't want to take and get the whole persona that I'm
uniform presence. Yeah.
I'm a cop. I'm here to arrest you. Any of that. So, but I do carry a vest in my car. So I put my vest on, and by the time I did that, man, Dad's already up there at the residence and walking down the trail, kind of hurrying me up. It's like, okay. And went up there. Dad, like, knocks on the door. I'm like, normally I do that, but you've already started up. We'll continue. And the son starts just telling his dad, hey, go away. I don't want to see you. I'm going to call the sheriff's office if you don't go away. And about after Dad tried 2 or 3 times, I was like, here, let me knock on the door. And so I knocked, introduced myself as one of the sheriff's deputies, since he already said he was going to call us. And as soon as I did that, he flipped out, like screaming at the top of his lungs, just whatever, go away, you're trespassing. I was like, dude, I just want to talk to you. Just want to see what's going on. And all of a sudden he stops screaming. You hear some rustling. It's like, what the heck is that? And he goes, hey, you want me to come out? I was like, man, I just want to talk to you. I just want to see what's going on. He's like, you sure you ready for me to come out? It's like, crap, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I just want to talk to you. He's like, okay. And here he kicks the door open. Now, it's a little Connex trailer that he was living in. And the door swung outward. Of course, in law enforcement, you don't stand in front of the door. Thank God we weren't. Because when that door came open, I kind of peeked my head around the corner, and there he was standing with a crossbow. I was like, shh, crap. And I took off running down the side of the building, trying to draw my gun. And about that time, I looked back and, like, raised my arm. I heard, poof, and then felt like a sunburn on my arm and on my face. It's like, what the heck? And of course, this is going through my mind, and it seems like an eternity, but it was that fast.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I shot from the hip at him because I realized pretty much right away that burning's got to be, and that sound was it releasing the bolt. So I shot from the hip, and I reached up and grabbed my head, and I had blood everywhere. And then I took off running after him and saw him running towards an open field. There's like a grove of trees on the 2 sides.
So at this point, you're hit. So, I mean, grazed, hit, struck. You know that you've been injured in some way from a crossbow. You've got a guy that's got the crossbow in hand, and you're giving him chase into an open field that's within the same property of his.
Yeah,
him and his dad.
So him and his dad, I guess his dad's house is over here. I really don't have a clue. But his Connex trailer's here, and then there's a bunch of empty field with the hay bales that are all on fire, and like 2 sections of trees that are right there.
So it's just mayhem.
Yeah, and he's running to it, and all I can think is, man, he's going to go behind those trees and put another bolt in that crossbow and start shooting us again.
And for our listeners and viewers, a bolt is essentially probably what a lot of people would think an arrow.
Yes,
An arrow and a crossbow is called a bolt, but
Yeah.
for viewers, it's an arrow essentially, but
Yes.
it's real terms a bolt.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. So he starts running that way, and like I go to draw up on him, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he starts pulling a machete. So I was like, man, that just confirms that he's going to continue
The acts of violence.
violence towards me. All his family's there. My coworker, who's a civilian, non-armed, she's there. I was like, man, I've got to do something to stop this now. So I ended up putting one in his
And
back.
that stopped the threat there.
Yeah, had a Colt 45, or actually it was a Kimber, but 45 1911, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes.
What distance were you guys?
I'm not really sure. I think they told me at trial that it was 37 yards.
It's a hell of a shot. After being shot with a crossbow, 37 yards with a 45 it's a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure on that, but it was a pretty good little distance.
Wow.
Sure, it wasn't 137 yards.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 137.
Leighton's version would be 237
Yeah,
yards
that's right.
offhand.
Oh man.
Shooting it sideways.
So you get shot, or excuse me, you go ahead and you end the threat.
Yep.
Kind of walk us through at that point what all happens after that, and at what point do you realize how injured you are?
So after he drops, his mom came up to me, and she didn't run out to him. She ran up to me. She goes, "Hey, I'm a ex-paramedic. Let me see what's going on." And right here on my head, there's a scar about that long, and she was like, "Hey, it's just a graze. It doesn't look bad. Put this over to help with the bleeding." And I was like, "Okay, you go attend to your son." And I mean, because that's far superior medical knowledge than I have.
Yeah.
Well, and that speaks volumes of, I guess, her character to come to you before her own son, trying to be sure you were safe and to check on you first.
Yeah, that's what I assume. I was like, I can't believe that she came to me and not her son that I just shot.
Was your arm injured at all?
I had a big bruise, but that's all. And I've got a big tattoo there, so it was hard to see the bruise, and I don't even think there's any photographs of it.
Maybe because your bicep was so strong that it bounced off. And
yeah, it's like steel.
Yeah.
You know, the crazy thing about it is after it was over with, my dad lives out in that area, and we were talking, and it's my dad's neighbor's nephew is who it was that he was dealing with.
Wow.
And good family.
Yeah.
Ranchers, cattle guys, stuff like that, and they had some land out there, and I think they were letting the son live in a Connex building that he made into his own apartment or something.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Suspect lived?
The suspect lived. It punctured his right lung. He was air flighted to the same hospital I went to, and 3 days later he was in the Hardin County Jail.
Been sentenced since? Been to trial? You mentioned trial. Has he been sentenced?
Yep. Went to trial in 2021 and was sentenced for 60 years.
Good.
After I offered him a plea deal of 30 years, and he didn't want to accept that, so he took it to trial, and it took him 15 minutes to say guilty and sentence him to 60 years.
You don't want 30. Will you try 60? Do you want 60?
Yeah.
Just to let y'all know, Hardin County is not the place to mess up in. I'll just tell you that right now. When I started out my police career, was in Hardin County, had an agency in Hardin County, and they don't play around.
You do the crime, you're going to get some time.
Oh, yeah.
Was that at Groves?
No, Sour Lake.
Sour Lake. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
I
right.
started out at Sour Lake. Yeah, Hardin County's legit, man.
That's good, though. I mean, that's tough on crime is what we kind of like, and I think it's volumes. It speaks volumes for them to do that to that guy.
Yep.
So,
had you ever been involved in a critical incident before?
The only time that I had a death in custody previously, and it was a guy that was overdosing on methamphetamine, and they were like, by the time he died, because the county, if you go to the far end of the county to get to the hospital in Beaumont, you're looking at an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. And so by the time that we got to the call, because the call came out about 2:00 in the morning. Got there, dealt with that, got the ambulance there, got him transported. He died on a meth overdose as we pulled up to the hospital. And, of course, they said it was an in-custody death. Right. So, therefore, I had to call and use Tmpa at that point in time.
So as far as the shooting, this is the first shooting you've been involved in. What was it like afterwards, going home, trying to decompress, realizing you getting shot with a crossbow is that's not a walk in the park deal. I mean, that's freaking crazy. What was it like mentally, emotionally going home to the house and dealing with having to shoot somebody, getting shot with a crossbow? Tell us what that looked like for Tom.
So the day of wasn't too bad. I went to the hospital. Buddy, the other field rep, was at the hospital.
Shout out Buddy Rector.
Yep.
The Jasper Jackal.
The Jasper Jackal.
So he met me at the hospital. Cagle came and met me at the hospital, talked to me a little bit. Then one of the Rangers came in and tried to talk to me, and Cagle shut him down real fast. Said, "No, we're not talking here." Then my vehicle was left at the scene, and I have a take-home vehicle. So I was like, what the heck am I going to do now? And my unit is kind of a task force. So we got Jefferson County, Hardin County, Orange County, Beaumont PD, Port Arthur PD, Chambers County, all in my unit. And the guy that oversees it, he came out and took me home. He was like, here's my gun. I know they took yours. Here's my gun. You can keep it. I was like, man, my keys for my car, everything's back.
My life's in my squad car.
Back in my squad car. I don't even know how I'm going to get into my house, any of that thing. So I had to deal with that. Then I went home, ended up going to a bar. Probably not the best choice in the world.
Not recommended.
It's what I did. I had a couple drinks there. Then went home. The sheriff called me that night, asked me how I was doing. The next morning, sheriff called and checked on me. He told me that the news media was able to look at my Facebook profile, even though I hadn't made any statements about it, because so many people had come out and said, "Hey, sorry that happened. How are you doing?"
Wow.
The news media was able to figure out who I was, and they were pressing him. You either reveal who I am, or we're just going to do it without you. So he called me and said, "Hey, the news media is fixing to run your name. I have to come out and reveal who you are and whatnot." So I went up there and met with him, and we picked a picture out to put on to give to the news media and whatnot. So,
did you have a support system there? Did you live by yourself? Were you married at the time? What did that look like? And
so I had a roommate at the time, and he was the assistant director at the academy. Mm-hmm. So I had him, but all my family's up in Dallas.
Yeah.
So really didn't have much besides the sheriff's office.
Right.
And the friends that I'd made.
There in the Southeast Texas area.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to the day of the event and really the response, not just from the field reps, I think you and Leighton maybe have met before this incident, but Cagle's response and kind of what that looked like for our viewers and watchers and listeners, to kind of walk them through a process of how that would actually look in the event that they were placed in the same situation.
So immediately after I shot the guy, I was like, okay, I need to make 2 phone calls. one to Tmpa because I know I have to get legal help.
Right.
Next one, my mom. Got to call her. Got to make sure that if she sees this on the news, she knows that I'm okay and all that.
Yep.
So those are 2 phone calls I made. And then what felt like hours of just sitting there waiting for people to show up.
Yeah.
And they showed up. My agency was great. They were like, hey, come over here. We need your weapon. We've called the Rangers. They're on their way. Cagle came out from Houston, I guess. And
For our listeners, that's Tmpa attorney Greg Cagle. Been a Tmpa attorney, one of the best in the country for decades, 20 years, 15 or 20 years.
Oh, over that.
so him and Leighton went out to the scene. I didn't even know Leighton was there.
He's sneaky, man.
Because
Probably a blessing you didn't.
they took me to the hospital, so I was there. Didn't know what was going on out there, but I mean, of course, I knew that my gun was going to get taken. There's a lot of talk about how officers that are involved don't know that.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, I know from all my other reading about these, here's all my stuff.
Yeah, it's evidence. At the end of the day, you fired your weapon. It's a piece of evidence.
Y'all take that, whatever. I'm good with it. And then the ambulance looked at me and they're like, hey, you're not really that bad. So the sheriff, I could either ride with the ambulance or take a police vehicle out there. So one of our captains actually took me to the hospital.
It's amazing, man, to get shot in the head with a crossbow and riding a police car to the ambulance.
Speaking
to the hospital.
of the bolt, the arrow, kind of explain to them and everyone else the device and how it was manufactured
So
by the guy.
what I've been told, I haven't seen it, but what I was told is he made his own arrows out of tent pegs, the foldable, bendable tent pegs, and he'd like JB welded a welding rod as the tip of the arrow. And
Wow.
I mean, it was probably pretty good because I was told that it kind of like split as it couldn't take the force of the bow. But
I thought you were going to say from hitting your head it split.
well, it could have been that.
Look at that watermelon head.
I mean, it's a little hard as a rock, but
Yeah. Oh man. Well, so Cagle meets you at the scene or at the hospital.
so Cagle went to the scene.
Mm-hmm.
They did the walk around,
Okay.
what happened, and then he talked to the Rangers and set out a date for me to go talk to the Ranger and do my statement. Had that all done at the scene, and then he came to the hospital and met with me at the hospital. And at that point in time, one of the other Rangers walked into the room, and that's when Cagle's like, nope, he's not talking today. I've already talked to the other Ranger that was in charge, set up a date, and that's the only time we're doing.
And then how many days after the job?
That was on the Thursday, and I think we met the next Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, but I think it was.
Which is, I mean, you investigated police shootings. It's kind of that's kind of standard now that you wait.
Yeah, those same day statements and interviews and all that are a no-go. And everybody's kind of, REM cycles of sleep are super important for people to have accurate memory recall. REM cycles specifically are helpful. And there's a sweet spot in there between memory recall and it getting contaminated. People start calling you going, well, I heard you shot 10 times. Well, I heard you shot 11. Well, then it starts contaminating your recall. So there's a sweet spot in there between a couple of days or a handful of days. You don't want to go weeks and months because then you're reading news articles and your recall is contaminated. But the same day is definitely not the route.
Yeah, so Cagle had me start my statement, typing it up like the next day or the right there soon after. It wasn't the day of. It was the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
So I started writing my statement, and then we met with the Rangers and turned it in.
Had you met Leighton before this incident, or maybe in contact, or?
I think we may have met at that shooting in Kuntz. I think that was
That was
before-
after. That was after, yeah.
Okay, there was so many things going on in Hardin County during that time. We came across Pass, I think, one other time, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Yeah.
So for people that don't I guess understand, each field rep that works for Tmpa kind of has a legal call day that they work, and then in your area when a situation happens, it's our duty, depending on the circumstances, for us to respond. Just to be there for support services. I mean, just to be there as support. And when I was talking to him last night over the phone, it's obvious that since this incident, the bond that you guys have, or the friendship, there's a friendship sparked up, since this incident. And I think, that's the true thing that I love about this organization. Our legal plan is superior, by far superior. We've got some of the best attorneys in this country, and I think we have the best legal plan as far as an association that anybody, it's unmatched. But the quality of people that we have here within the organization, field reps, Ray Wilkerson down there on the coast, you down there in Southeast Texas, Clint McNair up in Dallas, Tony Reich. I mean, we got some phenomenal JP down there in the Rio Grande Valley. The quality of people we have for this organization, and just like this bond, if you want to kind of dive into how you got the call that day, a process of when you get notified of something, what's your process look like from your field of view as a field rep, notification of the board, and so forth.
Well, and two, for listeners and watchers, all of our field reps are either retired cops or still cops.
Yeah.
Tyler's a captain at the SO, soon to be leaving, coming here full time. Leighton's been a cop forever and still to this day is full time with us, but carries your reserve.
Chambers
County. He's
Shout
still,
out to Sheriff Brian Hawthorne.
Sheriff Hawthorne. He still goes. You still go out and
Every now and then.
You need a mental eval, Sheriff.
Popo, dude.
You're going to have to reevaluate this reserve status on this guy.
Every now and then.
Hawthorne's like, damn, I didn't even know he worked for me. This is a problem.
No, this may hurt your campaign after this episode. There's no doubt.
But I want folks to know that the field reps, they have experience. I mean, we have an incredible amount of experience in our field services with everybody, and they have different backgrounds and different experiences, but everybody has a ton of law enforcement experience. And Leighton showing up to a scene or to anybody's scene, you understand he's been around the block and he understands, he's not an attorney, but he's there for you, and there is a friend and understands what we go through.
It's crazy that you say that because, like Buddy Rector that went to the hospital with Tom, Buddy's worked the James Byrd incident up in Jasper. He had the space shuttle that crashed over East Texas. I mean, this guy's a wealth of knowledge.
A gun battle.
Gun battle within his police department. Yeah. I mean, this guy's been through all kind of stuff. And a lot of us have. I mean, we have, 2 or 3 of our field reps have actually been shot in the line of duty. So we have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience. The biggest thing is everybody that works here in field services is passionate about what they do, and that's what I think separates us from other people is the passion that we have, and that customer service is bar none the best around. And so, like incidents like officer-involved shooting, of course, whenever it's sometimes not 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but we have been out at that time. But when Tom's incident happened, we got the call. Me and Buddy communicated with each other. I told Buddy, since he was closer to Beaumont at the time, I told Buddy to go ahead and go up to the hospital, and I would go out to the scene. That way, we were both at both locations. And that's basically what happened. Went out to the location. I think I may have even got there before the attorney, and basically just started asking the officers, "Hey, man, is there anything y'all need? Water, food, tobacco." I mean, that happens a lot. I've been to a lot of shootings in over 13 years at Tmpa, in the Houston area, and unfortunately, people have bad habits, and they may be out of a cigarette.
Especially under stress.
Oh, under stress for sure.
Yeah.
They may be out of that cigarette or, Copenhagen or whatever.
Vape.
Vape. I've never had to buy vape yet. I wouldn't even know what
I
they
wouldn't even know what
buy.
to say. Can you give me that chemical stuff
Yeah.
you put in that pen?
Yeah, I'd be coming back with a crack pipe or something. I wouldn't even know.
Oh, God.
And he'd still smoke it.
That's right.
But the thing is guys, people don't realize you're out there on the perimeter during the officer involved shooting, and you may have to be going to a Wendy's or a Whataburger or something like that and go buy these guys some food to try to get them through this incident, because sometimes they're out there for 8 hours, 6 hours. You're out there for a long time. So part of our deal with field reps, that's part of what we do. Guys that know us at a lot of these agencies and trust us, usually we're in there, with the officer that's been involved in the shooting, because some places, depending on where you go, a lot of smaller agencies maybe that haven't had something like this before, they don't understand the buddy system, the buddy officer system, stuff like that.
Or don't know what to do, period.
Yeah, and don't know what to do, period. And you go out there, and the officer involved, he's standing there and doesn't have anybody with them, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
or whatever, at least to get his mind off of things for a little bit, just BS with them, and try to get his mind off of it a little bit, to ease up his mind.
Yep. Yep.
So that day you got the call and went out there, and did you meet him? Did you actually contact him at the scene, or was he already gone at that point?
Tom was already gone to the hospital.
Yeah.
So basically, I met up with the sheriff. The sheriff was out there, as well as some of the Texas Rangers and Hardin County deputies and some other people that were out there from the mental health unit. That's who I was out there with.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is, and I don't know if you caught this last night whenever Tom came in, is that he had a situation a couple of years ago where he had contacted you, and I saw that kind of you were trying to process where you had contacted, where y'all had crossed paths at. He said, "Oh, Clint, you probably don't remember me," and that conversation kind of went on from there. But man, we have an impact, like us as field reps with our members, and it's just an awesome feeling to know that our services don't go unnoticed. And I think that says a lot for us, but it says a lot about our members too, and the dedication that you guys have. The two are parallel. The dedication that you guys have and the passion that we have for serving you guys, it's just a really good marriage.
Well, and to your point, and to Leighton's point about the passion, if you want to be a fielder up here, you can't go through the motions. You got to have a passion to do it. And about Tom walking up last night, I would rather have a cop that called in need go, "Hey, did you help me?" or "You were there," or whatever, or "Thank you." I would rather have that than some award or some.
Yeah.
To me, that's the best recognition. That means more to me personally than anything in the world, is for somebody to go, "Hey, dude, I called you at 2 a.m. one time and you guys were," and whoever it is, that's what, you're being effective if you're helping
Right.
somebody that needed some help.
That's
big or small.
That's what's important about officers keeping their contact information and stuff up to date. We were lucky because I already had contacts at Hardin County when this incident happened, but that's the reason for having that information updated, because there's times where we do have an incident at a place that maybe we don't know everybody, because maybe there's a big turnover rate there or whatever.
Yep.
And we're trying to find out, hey, is this a member of ours, so we can get out there and assist and help out. And like now, Tom is one of my contacts up in East Texas in Hardin County. If something goes on, if I see something on Facebook or on the news or something like that, and I'm strolling through and, okay, there's something going on in Hardin County,
Yeah.
well, I'm getting on the phone, I'm calling Tom. Hey, Tom, what's going on, man? Is, what I'm saying, is somebody hurt? Do y'all need something over there? And then Tom can relay that information to me. He knows me, knows who I am, and then we can get the help out there that's needed.
Yep. Man, I can't tell you, when you don't know this, but when this incident took place, Leighton, I mean, we've been there when the situations have turned not so good. And I think when Leighton was headed to that scene, I don't think he knew your condition at that point in time. When you hear somebody shot with a crossbow, you know, and it's just a wild story. So, man, thank you so much for coming on and sharing it. I think the relationship, it highlights the bond that we create with different members after critical incidences, and I think it's just a special thing. And I'm so fortunate that, number one, you survived it, but how cool that two friends that got to meet afterwards, and this friendship got.
I just ran into him in Port Neches at a benefit over there.
Yeah.
And he hollers at me across the day, "Hey, Leighton." I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Tom?"
Yeah.
So before we wrap, did this incident affect you? Was it just, hey man, I was lucky and I got him stopped, all was good, or was there a few days later, or is there a period later where it hit you, or you had to find a way to navigate through this, or was it just another day at work that got a little sideways?
So it was pretty much, I had no problem with it until we went to trial. And I was telling you this morning, man, that week of the trial, and I hardly ever couldn't sleep. I was thinking about, man, what's the defense attorney going to take and rail me on? Then there's the victim impact statement, which you don't have to do, but it's recommended.
So it wasn't the incident that you struggled with; it was the stress of trial.
Yeah,
or both.
The stress of trial. I wasn't wearing a body cam, didn't have video, none of that going in. So I got hammered on the stand a little bit about that.
Was that within y'all's policy that you should have it on, or?
Well, so I wasn't assigned any of that. My vehicle wasn't outfitted with it. They kind of took it as, because I'm assigned to the local mental health authority, there's HIPAA regulations and a bunch of stuff that goes with that they're like, we're just not going to have you do body cam.
So the incident itself was just a rough day at work. You had to handle business that day. You've never had to figure out a way to manage and unpack or navigate that incident specifically?
I would say that, but there's times I can't get on the road that's right there. It's Highway 105, and it goes all the way from Beaumont all the way to 45 out there. I can't get on that road without thinking about it.
Right.
So there's a little bit of things. Every once in a while I have a dream about it or whatnot. But my biggest issues with it isn't actually that. It was the trial. The trial affected me much more than
it's a big event, stressful event.
Than
you were victimized again almost for the trial.
Yeah.
So my second part of that, how old you say you are?
I'm 40.
What would 40-year-old Tom say to 22-year-old Tom getting into law enforcement, or any young man or woman that's getting into this career field? What would you tell them that you wish you knew when you were 22 about this job, or helpful insight, anything that 40-year-old Tom that's been through some stuff, what would you share with them?
So one, I think most young cops are like this. They're hard chargers right off the beginning. They come out of the gate hard charging. Man, there's some compassion that needs to be shown to people, and try to dial that back a little bit.
Great point. Yep.
Then, man, I wish I would have done it, and I still don't do it to this day. I've done it a little bit throughout my career. I wish I would have kept a journal, everything that happened. And because I've just got some crazy stories, as I'm sure all of y'all do, about just a regular day at work that everybody'd be like, wow, that actually happens out there.
Yeah.
Our craziest stories aren't from being cops. Our craziest stories are from working at Tmpa.
Yep. Well, yeah, man. You got anything else?
Leighton, what would You're 38. Is that right? How old are you?
Yeah, I wish.
What would you
I'm
say
about to be a grandfather. Man.
Papaw?
Yeah.
Is that out?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay,
out now.
all right.
It is now. What would you say to young men and women just getting in the academy or applying, or what would you've been around the block and seen a whole lot in your time? What would you share with them?
Well, first, I think that officers nowadays have it a lot harder than we did. I know it's hard for us to say that as old timers, but I would say basically that kind of the same thing as what Tom said is basically you want to try to treat everybody just like you would like for your family to be treated, your mom to be treated, things like that. But I would also say that at the end of the day, you need to be going home in one piece. So if it calls for action for you to keep yourself safe, then don't hesitate. Even with whatever's going on nowadays, you do what you got to do to go home.
Yeah.
One more thing is I would say when you're hearing all the war stories from the older guys, don't think that you have to have your own war stories to fit in and be liked by everybody in the department. Because sometimes I think that ends up guys hear stuff that like you could never do nowadays. Yeah. From the older guys, they feel like they got to do something like that to fit in, and then they get caught up in something and get ran off.
That's a great point.
And if you spend enough time in this career, you're going to get your own story.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Rapid fire.
All right. Listen, both of you. I'll give you 3 questions, okay? If you let me down on question number 2, we're no longer friends. You're not going to be invited back. We're done.
I feel good about question 2 today.
All right. 1, best line from a cop movie or best cop movie. 2, best cop car ever. 3, best drink of choice, adult beverage. Leighton, go.
The line, I think it's
Line or movie.
okay. The other guys,
Perfect.
Heck yeah.
I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly.
The other guys has been popular on the show. That answers a lot.
I'm probably the guy carrying the wooden gun.
No doubt.
Maker's Mark and Crown Victoria.
Crown Vic.
Yep, that's right.
God.
Mark it down.
I
Tom?
have faith in you.
And I can't remember the name of the movie.
That's because the arrow hit you in the head.
Probably. What was that one with Jake Gyllenhaal and
21 Jump Street.
I don't remember.
He was a LAPD officer, and his partner ended up getting shot at the end.
Training Day?
Training.
Training Day.
End of Watch.
End of Watch.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
That probably depicts probably Patrol.
End of Watch.
That's
It's
it.
good.
End of Watch. So I do the Crown and Coke thing.
Good choice. Good choice.
And then
Best cop car.
I've driven the Crown Victorias a lot. I still like my Tahoe better.
There you go. Tahoe. That's actually probably the third one I think somebody's picked Tahoe, but Crown Vic's the best. Ken Gardner, Crown Vic is the best.
As long
Just
as
for the
it's
record.
not a Ford Explorer.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
And Chevy Caprice, if you still want to be a
That's an
host
old
for the
time.
show, we don't mind at all.
Here we go.
Chevy Caprice. Here we go. Always looking for marketing.
You got anything else?
No, hit subscribe wherever you put it. It'll be somewhere in one of these areas.
Yeah, that's
hit
right.
that button,
That
subscribe.
was like a dance.
Yeah. I'm going to have to hit it somewhere.
The old dance.
Yeah,
I
the
never
shuffle.
know what to do with my hands.
Well, hey, this about wraps it up. Like Clint said, hit that subscribe button. And again, it's so important for you guys to download the podcast episodes on all the platforms. That's kind of how we rate our success on this. You can listen to them, but be damn sure to go ahead and download that for us.
We don't get credit for listeners.
No.
We get credit for downloads. And our boss, we work for a guy, John Sriga, that watches
He's
it.
kind of
and
a tyrant.
is Really
Yeah,
tough on
He's a
us.
tyrant, and he's just a tyrant. I'll leave it at that. So download those episodes so we can have a job, feed our children, and have somewhere to live. So I ain't got anything else, Clint. Man, you guys stay safe. Tom, I appreciate you coming up, bro. Enjoyed it. Leighton, you too. You're crazy.
I'm just
and,
surprised that this went so professionally with 3 East Texas.
well, let's
guys
go
here.
ahead and end it now before it dies off. And you guys stay safe. God bless you guys, and as always, may God bless Texas. We're out.